Hi, I'm Tony Ayupi, and I make comics and zines. And you are listening to 11 O'Clock Comics.
How about that?
That's crazy. He's on point lately. I don't know what it is. It must be good eating.
The Bartesian.
It's the Bartesian.
I'm trained up.
I am tanked up. I'm enjoying the hell out of this.
Nice.
Yeah. And we hope you're enjoying the hell out of this too, or will, because this is 11 O'Clock Comics, episode 889. And I'm Vince B.
You are Vince B. I am David E. Price.
Indeed you are, and I am Cobra Commander.
Oh, I knew it. I knew it was coming. Excellent. You can be Cobra Commander, otherwise known as Jason Wood, everybody. Here we go. How do you like this twice a week stuff, people? Give us some comments. Is this more to your liking? We need to know. We're not going to change it, but it would be gratifying to know that this is working.
Tell us what you think. This doesn't matter. It's like it's a good thing, but just tell us what you think.
No, I mean,
no matter what you think.
Input's a good thing, but only so far, right? And I'll give you some input. If you want to get your graphic novels, your OGNs, your trade paperbacks, and your omnibus edition, along with some manga, at rock bottom prices, where do you go? Well, only one place. cheapgraphicnovels.com. There's truth in that name because you are going to find prices way below those of Amazon and other places. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to look around. You're going to say, oh my goodness, I can stretch my comic buying dollar even farther than usual, or further. And you're going to place an order. Just one or two things. Like, come on, a little bit of restraint. You're going to get an email confirmation saying, hey, thanks for ordering from cheapgraphicnovels.com. You're going to reply to that email saying, you know what? Never would have known about this wonderful place if it wasn't for 11 O'Clock Comics. And Max is going to wave the magic wand of savings, gently tap you on the forehead, and you are going to get free shipping on your next order. So it's another layer of savings on top of the boatload of savings you already amassed on your order. It's amazing. Just go to cheapgraphicnovels.com. Don't take my word for it. Just go there and see how much you're going to save.
All the monies.
Yeah. What's bad about buying more comics?
Whew. Or being able to pay your rent and buy comics.
Yeah, this is true. Yeah. I got a sugar mama, so I don't have to worry about stuff like that. But, yeah, it's helpful.
I guess it was the old saying, if you look around and you don't see a sugar mama, you're the sugar mama.
Yeah, it's true. I'm a kept man, and I love it.
There you go.
I'm okay with it.
You are.
Yep.
Who wouldn't be? Well, I mean, listen, let me rephrase that. I know lots of people wouldn't be. I would be fine with it, though. Believe me.
It's a good life.
I would stay mad busy.
Yeah, it's a wonderful life. I'm very comfortable in my self-acceptance. Yeah, and I'm also comfortable with this here brew that I'm drinking.
Bird?
Yeah, this is from Rusty Rail Brewing. I didn't make the name. It's Rusty Rail New England Style India Pale Ale, 6.8% ABV. It's called Fog Monster. Yeah, it's very good. I don't know where Rusty Rail Brewing is from. Again, in Mifflinburg, Pennsylvania. Like, what is happening?
Damn. All this taking over here.
This good stuff coming out of Pennsylvania.
For real.
Yeah.
Well, I have something of similar quality, I think.
Yeah. There is some water in this, so yeah, similar quality.
It's true. This is a Gatorade Zero, G0. This is the fruit punch flavor, though. So, which is kind of special.
Going all out.
Good to see you branching out.
Nothing but the best.
Trying new things. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed the gin and tonic from last episode, I decided to this time switch it up and not try it. I already tried it. The Drumshambo orange citrus infused with tea gin with some tonic. And when it's that gin, you don't need anything else. You don't need, because normally with gin and tonic, you've either got like some lime juice. They do something in there to throw the lime in, so this way gives it something else, so it gives it something a little more. Not necessary with this gin. It's really good. So yeah, I decided to go back to that well.
There you go. That's actually
it's
pretty enticing, I must say.
Is this a skit or is this the truth? Like, you really made 2 drinks?
Are you?
No, I'm trying to get a beat on it because I want to know what's real.
It is real.
Okay.
It's still real. Here's the ice. You can hear the ice.
Is it a Borg cube?
It was.
Oh, nice. Okay, I get it now. Yeah, it's cool. Good job. Excellent. That's going the extra mile.
Mm-hmm.
I like it.
Anything for you.
Nah, it's not true.
Do anything for you. Yes, anything.
Nice. Well, let's get to doing what we do best, and that's talking about comics.
Let's get it.
Yeah. The floor is open. Whoever wants to do it.
Well, since Vince brought it up last time on Friday, and again, listen, you're not wrong. I mean, hell, the cover of the 2023 Action Comics Annual has Superman front and center, and to his left is Supergirl, Superboy, and to his right is his son, Keenan, who is the Superman of China, and the 2 kids he pretty much adopted from Warworld. So yeah, there's a whole lot of super folk on this cover. That's not what I'm here to talk about, though, because this was wrapping up Philip Kennedy Johnson's storyline with Blue Earth and that arc. But Action Comics 1061, I was really happy to read, because it is written by Jason Aaron, illustrated by John Timms, and it looks amazing. Colors, actually, I don't even. Am I missing a credits page? I may be missing a credits page. But the gist of this story, we start off with the planet Xerox, Zerox, and it's known as the Sorcerer's World. Basically, it's where all things magic first took root. And what's interesting is that it's beautiful, lush world, and here comes Bizarro to just make the fun stop. And he's arrived. As the story begins, Bizarro arrived 15 minutes ago, and he's already forgotten why. And he's here because we find out that he's kind of like Superman. He's the last of his kind. There was a recent upheaval or some crisis or something happened. Some event happened that caused Bizarro World or Hetra to kind of just go away along with everybody else. And Bizarro's a little put out by that. So he goes to the Sorcerer's World. Again, not really sure why he ends up here. But it turns out that while he's here, he starts laughing. And these sorcerers, Sorcerer Aponderous, Sorcerer Thornback and Sorceress Graves are there. They show up to put a stop to his to his just running roughshod all over this planet, and they do. They zap him with the magics, and it's working. They're using hex spells and just, I mean, they're throwing everything at this dude, and he's like he's walking into all the magic, all the blasts that they're throwing at him, and it's a bright flash, and one of the sorcerers says, "I did it work? Why don't I hear him screaming?" And when the light finally dims and they can they can see again, we just see a massive lightning storm, and Bizarro appears and says, "It no tickles." And he's just got a really menacing look on his face. So then 6 weeks later, we're now in Metropolis, and Superman sees Bizarro hanging out within the clouds. And he's kind of he's got like this massive, like almost like a Santa sack hanging over his shoulder, almost like he's ignoring Superman. And Superman talks to him at first like he would anybody, but then he clicks in and decides to start doing the Bizarro speak to maybe something will catch. But Bizarro's like, you know what, man, you know so much, and he basically kind of just, it's not even a closed fist, it's almost like it's a slap, but he thwacks Superman all the way to Venus. He says, Bizarro just swatted me 25 million miles. He's never experienced that, never shown that level of power before. And then, sure enough, Bizarro comes swooping down, and he just starts beating on Superman as they go through the cosmos. The corona of the sun, the moons of Jupiter, Saturn's rings. They end up on Pluto, 3 billion miles from Earth. And Bizarro is just wailing on him, and ends up like just encasing him in ice, and then flies away. So by the time Superman breaks free, Bizarro's gone, and Bizarro's now back on Earth, high over the skies in Metropolis with his little bag of tricks there, literally. And all of a sudden, all these little trinkets, these little these tchotchkes, all of these sorcerers' tricks and trinkets, that he's gathered. He's got them in a circle, and he's gonna mess around with some magic. Superman comes down and tries to. Superman makes it back to Earth, tries to break up the festivities. While this is going on, of course, there's a news chopper flying overhead, trying to check out the action. The whole city is watching this fight. Lois and Jimmy are on the roof of the planet, and they're trying to see what's going on. Superman's bleeding; he's getting the crap beat out of him, and Bizarro is actually able to cast the spell. We see what happened back on Xerox, and he just doesn't want to be alone anymore. There's nobody like him. There's none of his kind. So he's lonely, and he wants to kind of make it right again. And he ends up opening this portal, and it's not really going the way he had planned. Superman's trying to pull him back, trying to basically make it all right. But he basically kind of just came apart in Superman's hands as he's trying to pull him back out of the portal, and he's gone. He disappears, and afterwards, as they're looking over the city and checking everything out, Lois and Superman are on the top of the globe of the Daily Planet, and the people the city who were watching the fight earlier in the issue. We cut back to them as they continue their conversations from earlier, and everybody's kind of like holding their head and rubbing their eyes, and they're like squinting, and their faces are all scrunched up. And when Superman was trying to save Bizarro, he heard crying, and he's like, I just can't get that crying out of my head. It's like inside of me. I can't shake it, and it's just something about this. And while he's still trying to think about it, Lois is trying to get his attention. She just keeps saying Clark, and he's still talking about the fight with Bizarro and what the hell's going on and what's going on in his head and this crying. And then he realizes, it clicks. It's like, no, it's Bizarro. It's not. He wasn't crying. It wasn't weeping. He was laughing. And Lois at this point, she's like, Clark, I don't feel. And that's the last thing she says, because all of a sudden she says, hello, Superman. Time for you to live laughing like the joke you are. And her face is very much like a Bizarro, and everybody in the city down below, their skin has changed to the hue of a Bizarro with the sharp features. And the last page, I'm not going to go any further than that, but the last page really it bothers me a little bit, and that's a compliment to Aaron and Tim's. I don't know what to expect with this arc. I know it's not going to be a long arc, but I am not upset about Jason Aaron writing Superman. Vince, you'll be happy to know that it's just a Superman comic. This issue is just Superman. There's no other family involved. And I'm not saying that to get you to read it. I'm just saying, it's back to basics for at least for whether it's going to be this arc or not. But we've got a Superman comic, and no backups either. It's just a straight up single story Action Comics issue. But it doesn't negate what came before it. It doesn't. It's not like it's a reboot or a relaunch. It's the current version of Superman in the current DC universe. But it was a hell of a first issue from Aaron for writing Superman. I had a blast with it. I want the next issue now, and well, sort of, because I kind of want this arc to continue. I don't want it to hurry up and finish, but I do definitely want to read the next chapter and see where we're going with this. This was a lot of fun.
Well, I have it open in front of me.
And I know you're not big on Tim's either. But
No. It is ridiculously beautiful.
It is, right?
Yeah.
Do we have a Superman-O-Rama then?
Wait, what is happening?
I know, what? Dogs and cats, that's crazy. What? Yes.
Do tell.
Do tell, Vince. Well, when you don't read many superhero comics, despite reading a lot of them for a long time, it's nice to be able to get two for the price of one, Vince, when it's done well.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what brings me back to Batman, Superman, World's Finest. Now, again, 11 o'clockers coming up here shortly. It is pretty clear to me from some of the early returns I've seen from the audience voting that I haven't done any of the official tallies yet, but I'd be surprised, full disclosure, if this book doesn't win the favorite superhero book among our listeners, based on the at least the feedback I've seen as glancing through some of the submissions. And I thought, well, let me get caught up in this book, because I read it as it was coming out, enjoyed it. Dabs talked about it a few times on the show. But I didn't realize how far back I was. I was 10 issues behind. So I read 10 issues. And I got to tell you, it's exactly what I want these days, in that I am in the, I want a taste of superhero books. I don't need a lot of them right now. And this is just perfect for that kind of mode. it reminds me of. There was a time when I would have thought Mark Waid was such a household name in comics that it would be ridiculous to say he's underrated. I think it'd be interesting to revisit that case though now, because I think that he's so prolific that sometimes we forget how damn good he is at writing cape books in particular. And these characters are, Superman probably more than Batman, but he loves these characters, and it just comes through. I'm sure Dab has made these points in the past when he's talked about this book in earlier parts of the run, but it's a funny book. Like, it's legit funny. Mm-hmm. And I never really thought of Waid as like a funny writer. You know what I mean? Like, he struck me as someone who's just excellent because he's by the numbers, big, bombastic, logical superhero action, right? But I think, and I'm trying to think, he's done so much work. Can you think of a book that was like an outright humor book that Waid's done before? Like, he's done pretty much everything, right? But I don't. Point being, I don't consider him a quote unquote funny writer, but this book is chock full. I don't know if you're caught up, Dap, and I don't know the issue number offhand, but one of these issues was a transition issue in between arcs, and it was recounting of a date that Robin and Supergirl.
Yes. Yep.
And it's like the most awkward blind date ever. And it's so clever because they're showing you the moments of the date, and then they're showing Robin telling Batman about it, and Supergirl telling Clark about it, and them reacting to the recap of the date and giving them advice. And it's just hilarious. The shit that Batman and Superman say to them, basically calling them like Gen Zers and like, you gotta suck it. Like, it's just funny. It's just, the whole thing's funny. And I thought, wow, that's so unusual for Mark Waid. But that's a transition issue which stood out to me. But then the two main arcs that I read, the first one was about basically all the scientists that are involved in the robot making in the DCU, and there's a lot of them if you think about it. They get all brought together to create a new character. And Vince, you gotta love this. Are you ready for the character's name, Vince?
I'm so ready for it.
New Mazo. New Mazo. And who's New Mazo, you might ask? Well, it's basically Amazo 2.0. What makes New Mazo better than Amazo? Well, because he has a freaking responsometer. And you DC heads know that a responsometer is what gives the metal men their human quality. And so, yes, Ivo's Amazo update gets a responsometer. But that backfires because they basically made him human in terms of his ability to logic and reason. And so New Mazo, like any good superpowered robot with sentient thought, is like, F y'all, I'm not going to do your bidding. I'm going to take over the world. And it was a super fun arc. There's a part where Batman comes in dressed like in a Super Sentai mech costume that is formed from the 5 different metal men fusing onto his body. That's fun. That's silly and fun.
That is fun,
right?
Yeah.
It's ridiculous and fun. And like the pitter patter between Bruce and Kal-El is fantastic. I just think this book, it was great. And that I should mention, because the name of the arc, Metamorpho is the centerpiece of this. Basically, it's a and what's fun of it, it's actually a detective comic. Lo and behold, like when Batman used to solve. Right, like they're trying to figure out who killed was it Stag, the
Flaming Stag,
yeah. Stag's dead, or at least allegedly, and they're trying to figure out who killed him. And Bruce Wayne is the lead suspect, and like Jimmy Olsen has to like break an expose where he basically says Bruce Wayne did it, and Clark's like, bro, he didn't do it. He's like, well, how do you know? I can't tell you how I know, but he didn't do it. And so they run the story, and just lots of little fun, like everything's so well executed, and then it's also bombastic action. And then the most recent arc is essentially the telling of Batman and Superman's first ever meeting, and they meet up to solve a Riddler caper. And the reason they meet is because the riddle that's seen is written in ancient Kryptonian. And so Superman sees that and is like, wait a minute, I didn't write that. Who the hell could write that? And it's just, again, like, there's little funny moments. Like, someone at one point, they're like, well, are there other Kryptonians on the planet? And or Clark's like, well, I didn't write it, and I know my dog didn't write it. And Commissioner Gordon's like, wait, you have a pet dog that has the same powers as you? Like, Clark's like, don't worry, he's well behaved. It's like stupid shit like that in the middle of this. I just think it's really well put together. Like, there's funny moments, but it's got a lot of heart. The characters feel true to their iconic version, like the version that most people think of when they think of these characters. I just think it's awesome. It's beloved by many of our listeners already. It's not like I'm breaking news here, but and I enjoyed what I read the first arc, but I don't know, can't tell you. I probably just my overall kind of malaise with the superhero comics this year pushed this to the wayside, and I shouldn't have, because it's a blast, and I can't wait. I hope it keeps going for a long time. It's just a great comic.
Plus Dan Mora.
Thank you. Actually, yes, thank you. Dan Mora does most of the issues, and he's phenomenal. But I will say, and I don't want to finish on a negative, but I will say that for my money, the Travis Moore issues don't hit like the Dan Mora issues.
Yeah, for sure.
So again, and it's not saying that Travis is bad or anything. Obviously, he's not. But I just think that there is a distinct change in my excitement for the book when Moore's doing issues. But Mora is inhuman and seemingly can do like 20 beautifully done interior issues a year, and I'm very thankful for that.
Yeah, I don't want to sound like the creepy old dude, but Mora's Supergirl is delicious.
Mm-hmm.
And his demon's really good too.
Book too. She's a pain in the ass in this book.
Yeah, she is. Yeah, she's like a terrible teenager.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
No, it's fun. She's
like,
fun.
just look at her. She can do whatever she wants.
Oh, she can't get. I mean, Robin's all frustrated with it, but and even the.
I thought Robin was gay.
Different Robin. That's Tim Drake.
That's Tim Drake.
This is Dick Grayson.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because I didn't read the issues in chunks. I was reading them as they were coming out, but it was the mystery, the whodunit. It was halfway through. It was almost like Metamorpho was an afterthought. Like, unless it was until you read the title of the story, it's like, wait, this is still a Metamorpho story, because we were all about the robots and the androids and everything. It's just I love that you can maybe get a little lost because there's so much going on and you're enjoying everything you're reading that you may have forgotten a little bit of why you were here, and then it all of course comes together. But it's just so well done, and it's such a beautiful book. But yeah, it is. It's
nice. And the current arc, because it's ongoing. So we haven't concluded it, but is basically not a revisiting, but we return to the world of Kingdom Come, and
which goes back to an earlier arc from the beginning of the series. Right,
exactly, because one of the characters then comes back and is turned, and we see the origin of Magog. Not that we were clamoring to see the origin of Magog, but it was well executed. I thought, well, that's clever. It's one of those like Jeff Johnsian, I'm going to fill in these gaps in the DC mainstream continuity. I mean, so I'm not changing continuity. I'm just filling in holes that we never really addressed. And I think that's very clever. I don't know. This book just made me remember how great a superhero writer Mark Waid is. And,
yes.
he's very divisive. His personality is very strong, and I think that probably hurts him in terms of people wanting to praise him these days. But I just as a writer, I think he's just top notch.
I don't think there's anything wrong with a strong personality, but I haven't read any of this, but to my eyes, the visuals look like superhero books done right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's just a well-done superhero book. Like,
it's my favorite. It is. What makes me love the book even more is that it is not tied to or bogged down by current DC continuity.
Yeah, I think it's a saving grace.
Own thing, and I absolutely love everybody for it.
Nice. I'll check it. I'll read it because you can't have a demon that looks this good. and to me, and not at least sample it.
Oh, speaking of the Etrigan and Bloodwind were both in that Action Comics annual. Yes, they're in that Action Comics annual. I was like, holy crap.
Dope. Oh, okay, I'll read it.
The only good thing about the demon is he's named Jason.
He can't say the only
His
good
alter
thing.
ego is named Jason.
Dude, he rhymes. What's wrong with that? That's perfect.
Dude, that's a most
especially as somebody who loves rap, and you're going to shit on a demon who raps.
Really, it's urban, Jason.
My guy doesn't drop bars, though. My guy drops whack lyrics.
Okay. All right, I'm going to take things in a very different direction.
Utterly different direction.
Very different. Now, full disclosure, there are two things that dropped this book into my hands. One is a huge amount of book that I've been deciding whether or not to keep. And I hadn't read this, and it was on the stack, and I picked it up at Heroes 3 years ago? No, it wasn't at Heroes. It was actually at the Book Off during a New York Comic Con. Got it for extremely cheap, and it's been on the stack, haven't read it. That's one part. The second part is I've been slowly making my way through the Severin box set, All the Haunts Be Ours, which is a folk horror box set of documentaries and films, again, focusing on folklore, of which this book definitely fits that classification. It's written by Neil Gaiman. So, starting at the top, right? The layouts were by P. Craig Russell. Again, it's a heavy hitter's book, to be sure. It's illustrated by Troy Nixey, and the color art is by Matt Hollingsworth, and it's called Only the End of the World Again. It is the absolute perfect title for this story. I'll tell you why. But it is it's a very odd take on the Lovecraft Cthulhu mythos. You have a character, and I had to laugh because I have, not having read the story, the first time I encountered this character's name, I thought to myself, Gaiman has to have the biggest cojones ever to name this character what he did, or it somehow ties into the goal, the concept of this story. And it's definitely the latter. I mean, Gaiman's a phenomenal writer and can basically do whatever he wants. But the fact that he named a werewolf Lawrence Talbot is borderline hysterical. But it plays into the concept of this story, because you know who Lawrence Talbot was, right? Please don't say no. Larry Talbot is Lon Chaney Jr., the Wolfman. His name was Lawrence Talbot. My God.
You took the words out of our mouths.
Yeah, okay. But, all right. So you have Lawrence Talbot, a werewolf, who has just undergone a transformation, right? Which depletes him physically, emotionally, mentally. I mean, he's just laid out. And he's in the town of Innsmouth, Massachusetts. Shadow over Innsmouth, famous Lovecraft story. He's reeling from this monthly transformation. He's not happy with what he discovers in the contents of his stomach. He gets sick and he vomits, and within the stuff that just emitted from his body are tiny fingers. Yes, but he can't remember, because once he assumes the role or the guise of the wolf, the human brain is put on the back burner, and it's the beast takes over. And so he's just existing in this town of Innsmouth. And if you know your Lovecraft, Innsmouth I mean, the people are very strange in Innsmouth. Their eyes are a little bit too far apart, and their mannerisms are very, very odd. And if you've read the original story, Shadow over Innsmouth, they're all cultists, right? The esoteric order of Dagon, which doesn't play into this story, but the point of it is, the point of the whole story is, the denizens of Innsmouth are trying to revive the old ones to destroy the world. And the planets, on a very specific date, are in perfect alignment. And the planets include the moon, right? So there is yet another full moon within this month that Mr. Talbot did not see coming. And it's a ridiculously optimistic story set within the Lovecraftian envelope in which the werewolf actually saves the world. It's very, very strange. And I hope I'm not giving it short shrift, but within the mythology of Lovecraft, there's not a whole lot of light, right? It's all very downbeat and depressing. You have these forces, these cosmic forces that are beating against that very fragile membrane, trying to make their way into our world and just destroy everything. And you have a werewolf that's injected into this formula where he's just being himself, right? Just being a dude, just being a werewolf, just trying to survive. And he ends up thwarting this well laid plans of these people to wake the old ones and destroy the planet just because of what he is. And that's where the title is brilliant, because it's called Only the End of the World Again. It trivializes this doomsday scenario where it was bound to fail from the get-go, from the very simple fact that there's a werewolf inserted into the population of this town. And he doesn't really try to save the day. He just does, because the planets are... It's an atypical grouping of the planets where the moon is full the second time in this month. So he wolfs out, ends up killing one of the principal players trying to revive the old ones. And because the formula has been disrupted, they can't come back. And he saves the day. But he's not a hero. He just was doing what a werewolf, what someone stricken with the curse of lycanthropy does. They can't, there's no recourse but to turn into a wolf. Like, the moon is full, I'll turn into a wolf. And he ends up killing this woman, not because he wanted to save the day, but because that's just his role. That's what he does. He's a werewolf. And I think this is a brilliant story, but it's resoundingly optimistic. Like, the smallest thing, this unplanned for event, saves the world. I mean, I thought it's an amazing story where you have everything stacked up against, like, this convoluted plan by these acolytes to bring about destruction, and everything goes south just because this man, Larry Talbot, found his way to Innsmouth. Like, it's amazing, and it just speaks to how nuanced Gaiman is as a writer, where he looked at the Lovecraft mythology and he thought, Jesus, everything is just like so apocalyptic. Like, everything is stacked against humanity. There's no way out of this scenario, but there is. And to say it's only the end of the world again, meaning that it's another iteration in a long line of doomsday scenarios that is thwarted by this tiny little, almost inconsequential presence of a werewolf in the equation. It's nuts. Have you guys read this?
No.
I have, because if you remember, I had Troy Nixey do an amazing Moby Dick, like humongous, it's probably the biggest commission I have, around that time. And I was buying all the Neil Gaiman the Dark Horse Neil Gaiman collection hardcovers, which this is one of them. So, yes, I have read it.
It's a great story. I mean, if you're a Gaiman fan, you haven't read this, like, I think this is one of his best short stories. You need to read this. And it fits very nicely within the folk horror genre in that it ticks off a lot of the boxes. You have an environment, like folk horror is very dependent on the land, like mostly rural, but the land is a player in folk horror. You have an insular community, strange bunch of people that keep to themselves, and they're heavily dependent on these old world traditions. And yet something comes from outside of this worldview and just totally trashes everything they've worked for. Like it is a really great story, but there's I don't want to say a subplot, but there's a trend within this story where characters will speak to Talbot about the best way to dispose of a werewolf. Like, one character's like, well, it's got to be a silver bullet. That's the only, it's the most effective way to get rid of a werewolf. And others would say, well, it's got to be dismemberment. You got to cut them apart and burn them. And you don't know whether these characters are actually, whether this dialogue is actually happening in reality, or if it's Talbot like fantasizing ways in which he could meet his demise. Like he's so fatigued with the whole cycle of the wolf, to, play on a Stephen King book title, where he just wants out. And it's not apparent whether these characters are actually saying these things, or if he's dreaming them or fantasizing that, they're fueling him with the way out of his dilemma. Like, it's just brilliant. I don't know any other word to apply to this story other than brilliant. Everything about it is just amazing. And Nixey, if there's a very, very short list of artists that really get to the core of what it is that makes Lovecraft tick, that surreal, is it there? Is it not? Is it an alternate reality or something that's just trying to break it? Like, you don't know. And Nixey just manages to just get that vibe absolutely perfect. It's distorted and very exaggerated, but man, it's gorgeous. Everything about this thing is just lit my world on fire. And I want to punch myself in the face for never having read this before now. Needless to say, I will not be getting rid of this book. But it's a very short story. The majority of the book is comprised of P. Craig Russell's layouts juxtaposed by Nixey's solutions to Russell's indications. And in most of the situations, Nixey improved on Russell's layouts dramatically. Like, you see the rough pencils that Russell provided him with, and Nixey's like, I could do that better. And he does. So if you're going to improve on P. Craig Russell's layouts, you're a big gun in my book. Because that's one of the trademarks of P. Craig Russell: exquisite panel composition, exquisite layouts. And Nixey comes in, he's just like, yeah, good try, but I'm going to do it this way. And he betters Russell's layouts in almost every instance. It's just, I'm so glad. Normally, when you see, the roughs juxtaposed with the finished pencils, they more or less stay true to the way the person indicated them, but not in this instance. The Nixey's final pages are dramatically different than what Russell envisioned, and he made everything much better. I don't want to downplay Russell's involvement. They're good layouts, but Nixey just improved upon them like ridiculously well. You got to read this. Dap, do you have this?
Like I said I think it was last week when we were talking about the other Gaiman library books from Dark Horse. I'm missing Snow Glass Apples that was illustrated by Colleen Doran, and I'm missing at least one others, and now I'm missing this one. So that's at least two that I know that I still have to get. I have most of his collection. I have had Talk to Girls at Parties. I have Chivalry. I have The Problems with Susan. So I have a lot of his short stories that Dark Horse made into a hardcover illustrated by talented folks. I don't have this one, so I have to add it to the cheap graphic novels wish list.
I don't think it's out of print, but it maybe. I don't know. I don't know how it goes with the Dark Horse stuff, but it was originally published by Oni. I know that. I think it was in the pages of Oni Double Feature. We're going back a ways.
Yeah.
And one of the covers, I think it was in 2 issues. One of the covers shows Talbot in wolf form in a pub lifting a pint of beer. And he's in wolf form, but he has like everyday clothing on. And he's just kicking back in a pub, just relaxing, having a pint. And I think that single image speaks to exactly what Gaiman was trying to get at with this story, where it's like the protagonist saves the world, but not from any effort on his part. He was just being himself. And the fact that he's finds himself in this situation and the curse on which, on which he's inflicted, the curse of lycanthropy, he manages to save the world. And it's just, it's like a downbeat, severely optimistic take on an end of the world scenario. Like he couldn't do anything other than save the world, but not from any effort on his part. Like it's just a beautiful, brilliant piece of work. Read the goddamn thing. It's great. I got nothing else. I can't.
It's $13.99 at Cheap Graphic Novels.
You got to get it. Yeah, it's one of those things where I think it's a standout in a very, very respectable catalog of work from Gaiman. Like this is, I would put this on a level with anything he's done. Different, yes, but it is a consummate work. I love every page of it. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. So you don't have.
Would you put Gaiman? You would, right? Put him 2. On more.
Yes. Yes, I would.
I would too. There was a time when I would have said Morrison, but I think I wasn't as well versed in a lot of Gaiman's best stuff then. But I've read so much Gaiman in the last 5 years that I think he's pretty clearly only behind the GOAT.
If he had done nothing other than Sandman, he would rank very highly with me.
Sure.
But the fact that he's done a lot more. He's a wonderful writer.
Mm-hmm.
If there wasn't so much bad blood between the two of them, I wish that McFarlane would pay Gaiman to write some Spawn books. I mean, it happened once, but I don't think it would ever happen again.
Speaking of him, you see he raised his price of his figures to $40.
I don't worry about the figures. Yeah.
No, I'm just saying. Like, it's interesting.
He's keeping his books at $2.99, so respect.
He is.
Yeah.
Well, that's because he's charging the
right, exactly.
collectors $40 for a figure.
I was gobsmacked just how wonderful this book was.
Nice.
I mean, I wish I had the language at my disposal on a whim to tell you exactly what this book means to me, because I'm a diehard Lovecraft fan, and this is so atypical to the Lovecraft mythology. Like it's so optimistic. Wow. Good going, Neil. Big hugs.
Big hugs.
Yeah.
Gaiman likes to play with the Lovecraft stuff because he did that Study in Emerald, which is the take on Sherlock Holmes, only twisted into a Lovecraftian horror story. So yeah,
Yep.
he a fan.
Cemented him. It did.
Heels he.
What else do we have?
I mean, have we all read Cobra
What's the
Commander?
clock say?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
For real. Yeah.
Now, when is this actually coming out? Because we got a review copy. It's not coming. It's not out, right?
No, it's coming out, I believe.
Next month?
Let me bring out the. No, I think it's coming out the 17th, which is next week. Next week.
Yeah, next Wednesday. Okay.
So we can't spoil it.
Right. So we've had the pleasure of reading this. It'll be on your stands next Wednesday. It is the final number one of this first run of Skybound G.I. Joe comics. There will be more, but this is when they announced that they got the license, they announced the books that we've now received. This is the last of them. Because you had G.I. Joe proper and then Duke and Cobra Commander. But and then the Hama book, of course, but that was the fourth. But yeah, so this is much like the Duke book. This is effectively an origin story, 4 issues of Cobra Commander. And since it's not out yet, we can't get into the meat and potatoes of the origin. But I have to say I was surprised by the choice of the direction they took with his origin, actually.
Yeah.
And I really can't get into more right now. We'll have to revisit this. But yeah, I was surprised. But it makes sense on a nostalgic level for sure. So yeah, and it was violent. It was not, longer gone are the days when Joe and Cobra would do battle and blow up each other's vehicles, and everyone would miraculously escape with parachutes and healthy. People be getting killed up in these books, so I'm here for it. What did you guys think, though?
So again, to preface whatever I'm going to say, again, I don't have a extensive knowledge of stuff that actually happened in the Joe mythology, but from what I know, most of this issue is by the numbers. As far as the not to spoil it, but the realm from which Cobra Commander comes, right? Mm-hmm. Most of it is, from what I remember, it didn't seem like anything was tweaked or off a little bit. I mean, yes, there's the big thing that they, Williamson inserted into the story to tie it to everything else, but the Cobra Law thing seems to be plucked from what we know, more or less, right?
Maybe.
Okay.
Not out yet again, so I can't really get into it.
All right, yeah, but I mean, it didn't. There wasn't anything that passed by my eyes that I thought, wait a minute, that's not how I remember it. But again, I don't have the textbook recall that you do for the Joe stuff, and I don't have the extensive experience with it. But it seemed right to me.
There you go.
There have been people on our Slack that be like, yeah, I read it. Well, Tomio, read it, but I hope you loved it, but I'm out. It's like, okay. I don't understand why he'd be out, because I thought the spin was pretty cool, but your mileage may vary. I guess we can't really get too deep into a book that's not out yet.
True. Well, we should mention too. It's written by Joshua Williamson, who has had a hell of a year, I must say, and it is drawn by Andrea. Hold on, I want to make sure I get it right. Andrea Milana.
Yeah.
Who I'm new. That is a new artist to me, but liked it. Had a teeny bit of a little bit of the Rosmo, a little more straight line than that, but a little energy to the faces, a little, right? I don't know. I liked it. What did you guys think of the art?
I think it was the best thing about it.
Yeah, Yeah. No, I definitely back that up. Yeah, I like the art a lot because I knew very little about this iteration of Cobra Commander, true to its roots or not. But yeah, the art definitely propelled me to keep going. I mean, aside from the oh shit moment, but yeah, it's weird. It's not as necessarily as straightforward, if you want to call it that, with Duke. And the last page made me smile, but of course they kind of spoiled that with the cover of the second issue. But it was, I'm gonna say it was weird, but not that's not necessarily a detriment. I'm not complaining about that. It just after then, and the Larry Hamm stuff is a completely different beast anyway, so I don't want to lump it in with this, but this was different than what Daniel's doing with Transformers. It felt different than Duke. So it was just it's all part of the same universe, but it was just the story itself and us getting down and dirty and real quick getting to know Cobra Commander. It was of the three so far, it was the weirdest one to me.
Yeah, I thought that, I mean, if you pull back and look at the books previously published, right, it's not as ground level as Duke. It's not as techie and novelty based as Transformers. But I think it's more Void Rivals than anything we've seen. Like there's
yes.
If you had to pick the book it was most like in the Energon universe, it's Void Rivals.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'd agree with that.
Because it's expansive. There's a big deal at the center of this thing. There's a whole ecosystem that we haven't encountered yet. And I think the sci-fi trappings of this book are very strong, but it's more of a hard sci-fi than the action-based Transformers sci-fi, right? So that's what leans me to lump it in. I don't want to say lump it, but to classify it more in line with Void Rivals than the other two books. And yeah, I mean, what do you think? It just seems that there's a bigger picture at play here there's definitely a bigger picture than Duke.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
I mean, they're actually all designed to be a connected narrative, though. So
right, but I mean, facets of a diamond, right? You have different angles, different approaches to each narrative. That they're all different, but you know, if I had to separate the cheese, I would stack this with Void Rivals rather than Duke and Transformers. Which Duke and Transformers seem to play more heavily into the old school Joe approach. Cobra Commander was I didn't expect this. It seems more like again, more like Void Rivals to me.
Mm-hmm.
But I
will say, if folks want to, the best way to, once you read it next week, people, or later this week, depending on when you get it, the best way to know what's going on would be if you haven't, fire up the streaming and watch the G.I. Joe, the movie. That's where this is all from.
Interesting. Guess what? I've never seen it. No, I've seen Transformers the movie a bazillion times, but I've never seen G.I. Joe.
Hurts my heart because I think Daph's in the same boat.
Oh, maybe I did, but
that's cute. Maybe.
I mean, no. When did G.I. Joe come out? I mean, come on, seriously.
The movie was 1987.
Yeah, so I mean, like, so I'd have been 15, if that.
Yeah. Well, the movie's very trippy, and it introduces some concepts that many claimed was the always fun jumping of the shark. Like when people say, "What's G.I. Joe's jumping of the shark moment?" It's the movie because of the stuff in the movie that we see here. But it's interesting then to I think there's a boldness to decide to embrace that part of G.I. Joe lore. I think.
Yeah, definitely. Right.
That I think is pretty neat. I'm here for it. Just to be clear, I think it's cool. It's neat that they're going there. I'm just a bit surprised because, like I said, I think you don't sell a G.I. Joe book in 2024 without assuming you're going to have a lot of people that were 80s kids who loved it going to give it a try. And I think for them, the stuff covered here is the reason most of them are like, all right, I'm good. Like we've gotten too silly.
And I guess that's where Jay's coming from.
I think so. Yeah. I think so.
But again, to the whole Kirkman and everybody working on these books, if you're going to do a Joe book by the numbers, why bother? It's been done before.
Larry, you're doing.
I'm here for it. I'm both surprised they went there and happy they went there.
Yes. Novelty is a very good thing. Mm-hmm. To say that, well, this is unlike anything we've seen before, that's a plus in my book.
Well, yeah, and I don't like. It is also worth mentioning that some of what we see in this issue, another version of this happened at IDW in the G.I. Joe versus Transformers run they did. So,
right,
yeah, but
not Tom's. You're talking about
no.
Right, okay,
yeah, the proper. Not that Tom's was proper.
Tom's was a flight of fancy. Yeah, awesome, excellent. Yeah, again, more power to them. They're doing something at least different that's getting non-Joe people to pick up these books, of which I am definitely one of them. Mm-hmm. So it's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
All right, everybody. Hey, thank you for being here. Remember, cheapgraphicnovels.com is going to get you the stuff you want at the price you need to pay to just corral more comics into your life. Omnibus editions, OGNs, manga, trade paperbacks, all that stuff at drastically slashed prices. And do yourself a solid, because we've retooled our Patreon. It's very simple. $5 gets you a bonus episode. $10 gets you access to the Slack and all the stuff that comes with it. It is a wonderful, streamlined new Patreon. So patreon.com/11o'clock comics. Check that stuff out. I have been dying to talk about this book with Jason.
Ooh.
Yes.
Is it also in my travels? Is this also in your travels?
Well, I'm looking at the list right now. Let's see. Wow, Slack is choking. This is nuts. It almost never chokes. So I'm looking at your list, and no, it's not on your list.
Oh, okay.
No, but it is on DAP's list. So.
Oh, hilarious!
Yeah, we're cool.
Sorry about something else. Okay.
And so I need a little bit of introduction from my man Tony. Mm-hmm. So take it away, Tony.
Vince's Marvel Minute.
Thank you, my man. I want to talk about Wolverine number 41.
Yeah, you do.
Yes. Jason, it hurts my heart you're not reading this because it is freaking awesome.
Dude, I'm reading it. I'm just reading it on a delay when I'm finally over my feelings, and I'll read it.
You can't delay because Wolverine
because I'm going to be bowled over at the water cooler for people wanting to talk about the Sabretooth War.
Yes. Wolverine 41.
Parts, Jason. It's going to run for the next 5 months until issue 50.
That's what I'm saying.
Part the first of the Sabretooth War. Written by Benjamin Percy and Victor LaValle. Illustrated by Geoff Shaw and Cory Smith. Inks by Geoff Shaw and Oren Jr.
Two of my favorites.
Color by Alex Sinclair.
Love the team, especially.
Yes. First of all,
copious amounts of art from both of those gentlemen.
Of course, it's the backdrop of this issue. It's Logan's birthday.
It's your birthday.
You know what's going to happen, right?
Your birthday is today, Vince.
Who?
Chance the Rapper Wood's birthday.
I like Chance. I like him a lot.
He's a good
Yeah,
boy.
turned 7 today. He's a good boy.
How old?
7. He's a senior boy now.
Excellent. Mm-hmm. If you have any history at all with Wolverine, you know that his birthday usually is a bad occasion because Victor, his arch nemesis, Sabretooth, has done a lot of nasty stuff on Wolverine's birthday. There's a history of carnage surrounding the date. And I know you didn't read this, Jason, but a lot of this arc springs from the Sabretooth and the Exiles miniseries, which was written by LaValle, which is why I'm guessing he was pulled in by Percy to help out with this arc. Sabretooth has corralled a bunch of alternate universe Sabretooths. You have the Sabretooth of Earth 33141 called Camo, which can shapeshift. Earth 203, the Sabretooth is the Sentinel of Tyranny. It is a Steve Rogers themed Sabretooth. You have Sabretooth of Earth 1912, which is essentially Shauna the She-Devil, but she's a Sabretooth. And then Sabretooth of Earth 12, which is my favorite, a Hank McCoy mashup. He's called Pretty Boy. And so this group has Orcus technology, which allows them to go places that regular mutants can't go without being accosted by the Stark Sentinels. And when this arc opens, I know you didn't like the X-Gala, but in the fallout of that, some of the mutants that survived retreated to the North Pole.
Yes.
To a place called the Greenhouse.
Mm-hmm.
And you have Kid Omega, Black Tom Cassidy, Sage, Wolverine, and Akihiro, which is, we all know, Daken, right?
Formerly known as Daken. Yeah.
Yes. But they all keep an eye on Krakoa. Black Tom monitors the place, and he picks up readings that there's some mutants in the area, which is not a good place for mutants to be because you have the Stark Sentinels, patrolling the place. And Kid Omega decides, I'm going to check this out. And Tom says, whoa, wait a minute. Logan's not going to be happy with you just going out on your own. He's like, dude, I'm Omega level. I can handle this. He can't handle it. He walks straight into the Sabretooth gang and is summarily killed in very violent fashion. He's shredded, pulled apart, finito. Kid Omega, dead. Through the whole issue, Wolverine has a bad feeling. He's like, it's my birthday, Creed, the son of a bitch that has been plaguing me my entire existence, killed Silver Fox on my birthday, does a lot of bad things on my birthday. He's going to come and screw things up. And they're like, nah, you just, it's just, you're feeling some kind of way. It's just, no. Well, Creed and company does screw things up in a major way because they infiltrate the greenhouse. And the point of this whole issue to get the ball rolling is they dismember Daken. They rip him apart and they arrange his and other mutants' body parts to say, happy birthday. So Daken,
fucking awesome.
Daken is no more.
They
have
part of the issue.
Yeah, I mean, I have no love for Fang, but I mean, who does? But I mean, it was a nice way to get the ball rolling in a very, very vicious way. Like this thing is billed as the most violent Wolverine story ever. And from the first issue, they got a good jump on it of achieving that title because they just ripped, Creed and company just ripped Daken apart, just shredded him, dead. So I don't know where this is going, but you have my attention. As I said, Percy is one of the very few guys over the past year who has provided me consistently with entertainment that it just captivated me, propelled me through the doldrums. Wolverine has always been good over the past year. Borderline great in some instances. So I'm locked in for the next 10 issues, and I just bring on the carnage. Dap read it. Dap loved it. So you're the odd man out, Jason.
First of all, I didn't hear Dap say whether he loved it or didn't love it, number one. Number two, as you described it, it sounds badass. I'm
It is.
Bro, you listen. How many Wolverine comics have there been?
One.
No. I mean, how many issues?
Lots.
Hundreds, right?
Yes, a good
Your
amount.
boys read them all. I'm going to get to it. It's not like I'm not going to ever read the last 5 months of X books. I'm going to read them in my own time.
You need to get to this now, because that bullshit Marvel sucks attitude that you have will fall by the wayside. You'd be like, this is dope. This is the bomb. Let me check out some of their other books.
Give me that Ghost Rider.
Yeah. Oh, this symbiote stuff. This is kicking. I got to read this. You need to get, because this is going to revitalize, maybe not single-handedly, but it will play a very big part in revitalizing your love for Marvel. It's all Benjamin Percy. He's great. I don't want to
enjoyed a lot of Percy.
I don't want to discount LaValle. Haven't read a whole bunch of stuff that he's produced, but this was very, very good.
Percy has been in control of my girl for a year plus now.
Oh, really?
He's been writing X-Force.
X-Force too, and I think he's writing Immortal.
No, Kieran writes Immortal.
Oh, Rip is on art with Immortal now.
Yeah.
That's where I'm getting confused, because Rip was a standard on Percy's run of Wolverine for a ton of issues. So that's where I'm getting confused. But this is so good. So good.
That's good. I mean,
Tap will tell you how good it is.
It is a 10-part series, so I mean, we could do an episode in a year from now, and I may have read it.
That hurts my heart.
No,
It really-
because listen, I am just like with Danger Street. I am let's get the series finished if it's going to be limited series, and then I'll read it. That's my mojo. That's what gets me happy. My mind these days, because of all the other things we get distracted by, and then I cannot read single issues in the most case and retain enough of the narrative by the time I get around to the next one that it gives me the same pleasure of sitting down and reading the whole story.
Bruh. It's infuriating. Creed has a group of decapitated alternate reality Sabretooths that are like mindless ones. They follow his bidding. They got these robotic friggin' heads or appliances where their heads were, and they just do his bidding. Like, this is awesome. Fun. It is. It's just all fun.
It sounds great. It does. You make it sound very fun. I don't, with no sense of irony here. I imagine when I do read it, I'm going to enjoy it.
Dap, will you tell him how good it was?
It's a really good issue.
There we go.
It really is. I jumped in. I mean, I read the Wolverine Ghost Rider crossover.
Because it was good. No. Don't, none of that. It was very good. Weapons of Vengeance.
If we got Vince saying he's going to finally fucking get around to reading World's Finest after I've been talking about it for over a year, we can stop at the Ish.
Thank you.
Oh, I mean, listen, Ghost Rider's a bottom 3 character for me in Marvel.
How does that even register? What?
I don't. That's a word salad. I don't know what he's saying.
I can't take. Ghost Rider is kryptonite to me. Always has been.
Well, that's assuming you're Superman, which you're not. But I get it.
Ghost Rider does nothing for me in any of his forms.
Oh, that's wrong.
Well, listen, I got to keep it real. This is not new news. Not the first time we've talked about this.
What kind of an existence does someone live where a flaming skulled character on a motorcycle with just like flaming wheels and chains and leather, how does that not spark any kind of
raps while y'all are watching Headbangers Ball? The biker culture, none of it ever did anything for me. I just don't it's corny. It strikes me as corny.
Oh God!
He
You know what you
goes
need?
for his bodyguard.
You need someone to grab your ears and just hit you with the penance stare. That's what
I
you
need
need.
Jesus, is what you're saying. Yeah, I get it.
No, you don't need no Jesus. You need
Oh, Jesus.
you need to be scarred. That's what you need.
No, but yeah, Wolverine 41 was. I had questions, of course, because I didn't know when Doc changed his name. I didn't know about
Fang. Sounds like a member of the Addams family.
or those creepy coolies. And yeah, I forgot about the Exiles mini, but I mean, it was, but the gist is, especially since thanks to Larry and Mark back in the day, I know that Sabretooth has one goal when it's Logan's birthday, and so it was a lot of that hit that Albert LCD sweet spot for me in part. So I really enjoyed the issue. I'll stick with this event to see where we're going. But yeah, I'm sure any questions that I have will be answered along the way.
Well, you got to sympathize with Creed a little bit because he was like thrown in the Krakoa, the gulag as mutant non grata just because he likes to kill.
Right.
Yeah, and so his own people ostracized him. I'd be a little pissed too, even though I'm not a cold-blooded killer, but still.
Right. So, I mean, I could understand a need for maybe getting some kind of revenge for that now.
Yeah.
But the whole Silver Fox and doing this.
Oh, yeah. That's
it's kind of,
right.
that you really can't forgive.
Yeah.
So just, yeah, no, absolutely. Hopefully you read it before the event wraps up, Jason. But, I definitely I co-sign Vince's Senior Travels. I will just say real quick I'm not going to go too deep because we're only at the halfway mark since I started with Superman. My Senior Travels will be Superman 78, The Metal Curtain, number 3, because as I thought that fighter pilot who rescued Superman in the previous issue, who had a very familiar look, and as we see in this issue, while he's still walking around for some reason with his helmet that says Highball on it. It looks as though he was saved by the Hal Jordan in this universe. The art is still solid. Gavin Guthrie is doing a fantastic job, not just with this version of Superman, very reminiscent of Christopher Reeve, but his Lois Lane is pretty good. Margot Kidder is here in spirit, but I think he does a really good job of capturing her positive attributes. But there was also a brief meeting. Superman finally meets Lois's dad because when he's on the ship that they're reviving him on, Sam Lane is present and wants to know why Superman was where he was and why did and Superman tells him it's because I heard the chatter from your pilot and Lane's like that's top secret, that's classified, just do you have some sort of spy device? And Superman's giving him a quick little breakdown on his powers, and then as he when Superman's like, listen, I gotta go, and he takes off because he's got to get back to the fortress because that's where he left Lois. When that happens, and he flies away. Lane says, I understand what Lois sees in him, and Jordan is off to the side, and he says, well, that's pretty obvious, sir. And Lane continues, but don't think that means you have my blessing. And Eyeball's like, sir? And Lane says, I'm not talking to you, Captain. I'm talking to him. And you see Superman flying away because obviously he can hear him. But again, and it's a great little image of, and even when he's as Clark Kent, because Lois barges into the men's room, and Clark is there at the sink, and he turns around and he's like, Lois, it's the men's room, and he's got his little finger up like Reeve did in the movies. It's just. This really does a solid job of making you feel Now I just want to go downstairs and watch the movies again. But it's written by Robert Venditti, like I said, art by Gavin Guidry, and colors by Jordi Belair. So in your travels, I know it's not done yet. We're not quite. We're just about halfway through this miniseries. But Superman 78, The Metal Curtain.
The meat curtain.
The meat curtain.
Nice.
Taco Tuesday.
Double T. That's when they're getting this episode. Double T. Love it. Ooh. Yeah, in your travels.
You are
this
a
book,
foul motherfucker when you want to be.
This book is cresting on into 2024 with an impeccable start, and I suspect is going to be. There stands a good chance of being one of my favorite books of 2024 as it goes along. And this is, of course, written by Mr. Rick Remender, with incredible art by Mr. Max Fiumara.
Preach, my dude.
And this is The Sacrificers, number 6, which is the latest issue. Came out this past week. Well, this week. Yeah, this past week, January 10th. And, we talked very much all lovingly about the first 2 issues, and also mentioned having gotten a chance to chat with Max at New York Comic Con and procure some Sacrificers art. So all in on the Sacrificers. That's not new news. Just wanted to quickly mention, though, because 6th issue came out, that this thing, man, like they plan on it going on for a while. This thing has got that one. It's got the kind of vibe that I love about in my favorite kind of comics, modern comics, is that anything can and will happen. None of the characters, no matter how much we are meant to care for them and be invested in them in the early goings of this epic journey, it's not going to matter. We're going to have our hearts ripped out of our chests a lot through this series, I think, and we've already had it happen a few times here. And I love it. I love that it just started. It started in a dark place, and we're just starting to get a glimpse of who the protagonist will be, but they're certainly flawed, and it's going to be it's just going to be a blast. I have been clamoring for a Remender series that would pull me in the same way that many of his last run that all concluded recently in the last few years have, and probably most notably Deadly Class, but certainly pretty much that whole run, Black Science and Low and the like. And this is it for me. I think this is the next Remender book that I'm going to talk about annoyingly too often for many of our listeners until it concludes, hopefully many years down the line.
Very well said.
Love it. Grazie. Grazie mille.
Yep. Well, I don't want to tip my hand, but yes, you are absolutely correct.
Word. I'll wear it.
Nice. Hey, everybody, thank you for being here with us one more time around. Remember, we'll be coming to you twice a week. Mm-hmm. So hot on the heels of this one will be another one. And we hope you join us. In the meantime,
and welcome to all the new Slackers. We had a bunch of new people join the Slack this week.
Indeed.
Yes. I think we need to do shout-outs, but we'll make sure we get that done next episode, right?
Okay.
Because it's important. I mean, you got to give credit. These people are awesome.
Great to see.
We're just woefully unprepared. So there you go. We love you so much. Come back next time. In the meantime, say good night. Do 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 do. Bum bum bum. David.
Good night.
It was a very lackluster accompaniment, I know, but you'll have this.
David.
Nice. Tell them you love them.
Love you.
Love y'all. Can't wait to put the tuxes on next episode.
It's a big deal.
Penguin suit time.
Yep. We may go a little long. But,
I was able to work it too. Cool and the Gang's going to do the opening intros.
That's it for that one.